This is not magic, but it sure works like it. In fact, this is flat out amazing. You're about to discover a mind-blowing system that gives you the ability to instantly memorize lines word for word that you can use for scripts so you can get off book quickly, religious scripture so you can quote chosen passages precisely, the law so you can recite the exact wording accurately, and anything else that requires you to know something word for word. I'm excited to introduce you to the tap word fastener technique. During this video, you are going to use it to memorize something word for word and prove it for yourself. Hi, your favorite Uncle Matt back with you, and in this episode, what you're about to learn is the closest thing I've ever seen to genuine mental magic. I'm not even sure how it works, but I promise you, it works, and it works great. Like I said, this is perfect for remembering your lines as an actor, or if you want to memorize law text or religious scripture, even poetry or song lyrics. In fact, anything where knowing the content word for word is important. In preparing this video, I researched a bunch of others where actors talked about how they memorize their lines. With nearly all of them, it comes down to reading the information, reflecting on what you're actually communicating, repeating small chunks of it over and over and over again, and then attempting to recall that small chunk of text from memory. Then going on to the next line, doing the same thing and attempting to string the lines together. It's the 4R approach. Read, reflect, repeat, recall. We're also going to use the 4R approach, but we're going to supercharge it with the tap word fastener technique. In fact, we're going to add a 5th R. We're going to write out a code to help us remember. Yeah. I know right starts with a W, but so what? I first read about this incredible idea in some old photocopied mail order book on memory and mentalism I bought from a classified ad back in the early 1980s. It seemed a little far-fetched, and I really didn't believe that it would work, so I never got serious about using it. Then, a few years ago, I came across a YouTube video by Lauren Tothero who talked about the same technique as a way for actors to get off book quickly. Then, I watched another video by the amazing world champion Nelson Dellis who learned about it from Lauren. While I don't always recommend memorizing a speech word for word, if you're an actor in a play, it's important, especially if it's something like Shakespeare or Tennessee Williams or Eugene O'Neill. It's also important for poetry reading or song lyrics. You've got to know that stuff word for word. For Christians memorizing the Bible and Muslims with the Qur'an, this technique is worth its weight in gold. So buckle up, because here's the tap word fastener technique. TAP stands for Transfer Appropriate Processing. It was first written about in 1972 by Fergus Craik and Robert S. Lockhart from the University of Toronto. Here's what we're going to do. First, I'm going to give you the instructions as a guide. Then we're going to memorize a passage together so you can see for yourself how it works. You'll begin by selecting the script or text you want to memorize word for word. Then, using a blank notebook, so you have plenty of room, write down by hand the first letter of each word of the selected text you want to commit to memory. Keep the capitalizations and punctuation the same as in the original document. That means commas, periods, exclamation points, and so on. You may even want to do the line breaks and paragraphs in the same place to help with your visual cues. You're simply going to represent each word with a single letter. We're going to call this new document your tap fastener. It's the mental device we're going to use to securely fasten the words you want to memorize to your short-term memory. Then read the script a couple of times out loud. Next, only looking at your tap fastener, attempt to recite the passage out loud. Repeat it 2 or 3 times. Then, without your tap fastener, and purely for memory, attempt to recite the script you just memorized. If you miss a word or get stuck, so what? Just go back and look at your tap fastener. If that doesn't help, then go back to the original text. Within a few tries, you'll be able to recite that entire chunk of text flawlessly. Then, go on to the next passage and do the same thing. String those two chunks together and recite both parts out loud. Go back and repeat this process as many times as it takes to learn the entire script you want to memorize. As an actor or performer, you really can't start to emote the thoughts properly until you have your lines memorized. Now, it's your turn to amaze yourself by using the tap technique. We're going to memorize the very first motivational message I was ever taught. It was a poem given to me by my high school wrestling coach on our very first day of practice. We had to memorize a poem in order to make the team. It's called All in Your State of Mind by Walter Wintle. I'll quickly recite the whole thing and then we'll practice learning it. If you think you're beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you'd like to win but think you can't, it's almost a cinch you won't. If you think you'll lose, you're lost. For out in the world you'll find that success begins with a person's will. It's all in your state of mind. Full many a race is lost, ere a step is run, and many a coward fails, ere his work's begun. Think big and your deeds will grow. Think small and you'll fall behind. Think that you can and that you will. It's all in your state of mind. If you think you're outclassed, you are. You've got to think high to rise. You've got to be sure of yourself before you can win the prize. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man, but soon or late, the ones who win are the ones who think they can. Okay, here's the first part. Let's write down only the first letter in each word. Remember, we're going to use capital and lowercase letters, punctuation, and line breaks. Okay, we have I-Y-T-Y-B, comma, Y-A. Say it. If you think you're beaten, you are. Let's do the next line. I-Y-T-Y-D-N-Y-A. And see, we've got the comma and the period. If you think you dare not, you don't. Okay, now try the whole thing. If you think you're beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. Okay, let's try the next line. I-Y-L-T-W-B-T-Y-C. If you'd like to win, but think you can't. And the next line, I-A-A-C-Y-W. It's almost a cinch you won't. Okay, so now try the whole thing. Just looking at this. If you think you're beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you'd like to win but think you can't, it's almost a cinch you won't. Okay, let's try the next stanza. I-Y-T-Y-L-Y-L. If you think you'll lose, you're lost. Let's go to the next line. F-O-I-T-W-Y-F. For out in the world you'll find. Okay, next line. T-S-B-W-A-P-W. That success begins with a person's will. Okay, now the last line. I-A-I-Y-S-O-M. It's all in your state of mind. Okay, now you try it. If you think you're beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you'd like to win but think you can't, it's almost a cinch you won't. If you think you'll lose, you're lost. For out in the world you'll find that success begins with a person's will. It's all in your state of mind. How'd you do? Fantastic. It's amazing, right? Okay, once you've done that, try it without using your notes at all. See? It's working already, isn't it? I challenge you to learn the whole poem. See how long it takes you. You want to practice recalling instead of merely repeating. Attempt to see it in your mind's eye. Do it enough times, and it gets into you deeply enough that you can do it on automatic pilot. Pretty darn cool, right? Okay, here's what's next. I've got other videos here on my channel that deal with remembering all sorts of things. You'll see a 2-part series on memorizing what you study, like the world's smartest people. You'll see videos on memorizing both new and technical vocabulary, as well as foreign language vocabulary, and memory tips to become a better speller, and even for learning math. I hope you check them out. Here's what's next. I've selected a couple of videos just for you that I think you'll enjoy. And I'll look forward to having you join me and post comments on my other videos soon.